What's the biggest challenges you've faced?
Biggest challenge I'd say I've faced personally is
Tanner H Hicks.
that's it.
Lovely to meet you.
Well, we've met before, of course.
At a property networking event in Hampshire.
Yeah.
And we are here today at the Property and Entrepreneur Summit, and you're our first guest for today. And I do have a few questions that I've written down. First and foremost, introduce yourself. What's your name? Where do you come from? Who are you?
So yeah, Tanner H Hicks, as I said. I like to go by Tanner. There is another Tanner Hicks if you Google it. So I'm the better one, obviously.
Tanner
so
H Hicks.
Tanner H Hicks, yeah. But yeah, property investor for 10 years, developer. I'd say more developer nowadays than I was. I think 5 years ago I would have called myself an investor. Now more of a developer. Like to sort of create and doing bigger projects than I started off doing. I've got my own community as well, so I've sort of double-pronged. I have a Property Entrepreneurs Club, which is a community network that we run some consultancy coaching. Well, our main thing, we just have one product, which is a Mastermind product, a boardroom, 10 people a year. And then on the other side, my property company, Agito Property Group, we are doing basically mainly commercial conversion projects now. So we've got a couple of pubs. We're turning pubs into resi, but also a combination of tap rooms, gym bars, and HMO, depending on the area.
And so one of the questions that I had was, what is your favourite strategy at the moment?
Yeah.
And you're saying commercial conversions, specifically pubs. I always find pubs is difficult to get planning on because of the community asset value. How do you get around that?
So we've done two, or we've got two at the moment. So I'm not going to confess that I've done hundreds. But what we're finding is that by retaining an element, where it's possible to retain an element of commercial, or an element of community asset value, i.e. a tap room or a smaller pub or a bar or something. So you're not actually completely getting rid of the bar or the pub aspect. You're actually, and so the sites, obviously, a lot of those will then, not be viable. But, in town centres or just outside of the core CBD areas of town centres where pubs, there are already other pubs, you can claim that, it's no longer viable as a commercial entity, but it's got, the location is good for an HMO, so you can convert the uppers, or you might have a plot of land or a car park that's no longer used, so you can still retain an element and then still get an element of resi on it as well. And from a planning perspective, the planners like that because you're actually investing back into the commercial space and trying to do what you can to retain that pub, but getting some resi as well. So you're kind of hitting it both sides. So I'm finding it's working.
And you take it something? Do you buy things unconditionally, or do you get options to take it through planning?
It depends.
Or do you buy things with planning approval?
Yeah, it does depend. A bit of both, really. I think it depends on the situation, and I think it depends on the motivation on the seller side as well. The situation with whether it's already had planning, or maybe it's lapsed, or how long it's been empty for. Whether we can argue that it's a PD scheme.
Yeah.
So, for example, if the pub served a lot of food, you can make an argument that it was a restaurant, so therefore falls under Class E.
And then it goes to MA?
Yeah, exactly. So there's some little things like that. So, it depends.
And in terms of the construction side of things to deliver the scheme, do you have your own team, or do you contract out to main contractors?
So we contract out, but we've got a team who, we work a bit with. So, we sort of try and do a lot together. But fundamentally, the separation is very much client, contractor. So they obviously take on all the CDM side of things as well.
Sure.
And it's working all right at the minute. So.
And tell me a little bit about the masterminding, because that creates a little community. I think that a problem shared is a problem halved, and there's always somebody in that room that can effectively, they've been through that pain before and help the other one, and then vice versa.
Yeah.
So what was the motivation to put that together, and how does it work?
So it's morphed into something that I wasn't really expecting it to do. So a few years ago I thought, right, it'll be great to get 10 really cool people who are already in the game who just want some help, right? And I started off just charging costs. So it was literally I hired a bar, come for the day, we'll get some lunch, we'll have a nice, and then we'll just share problems like that, right? Myself included. And then it sort of morphed into something a little bit more than that, in that now we take on 12 people maximum a year, 10 businesses, 12 people. So we take partnerships as well. Yeah. We limit it at that, and then we've found that the relationships, or the depth of relationships that creates, collaborations, joint ventures potentially, but we have a set criteria as well. So we do look for people who are already in the industry or have maybe been in it for a little while, and we try and keep it really small. And I think I found that having been involved in larger masterminds, they're not really masterminds really in my view, but they're more like larger networks. So keeping it smaller, the relationships get a lot stronger, and most people have been with you from day one.
And they all have one aim, which is development.
Not necessarily. We find typically they are developers ultimately and have moved on to larger projects, having been in the program. But again, people kind of come in from different sort of situations, and I think I'm very big on like everyone's unique and everyone has their own like starting point. Everyone's got their own endpoint game, right? So we try and identify what that is initially. So some people might come in, like one of my clients, he's already got a portfolio of 11 HMOs. He wants to scale up into bigger development commercial projects, but also build a business off of it. So as in get some staff, get some systems. Whereas I've got another guy who's already an entrepreneur in other areas and wants to get into property. So he's starting out and is like trying to identify what that strategy is going to be, but sees the value in the group, the collaborations within the group. So he's now going off doing apart hotels, for example.
Nice.
He's quite big in he's got a marketing company, so he's good with his branding, he's good with his marketing. So
I love that stuff, to be honest. High yielding, income producing assets is my favorite thing.
Yeah.
And if I was to ask you over the last 12 months, what's the biggest challenges you've faced?
Biggest challenge I'd say I've faced personally is I've probably taken on too much. So
classic entrepreneurial.
In terms of, so I've taken on, for example, this year alone, I've had 4 new starters, staff-wise, doing different roles across different businesses. So my challenge has just been the time to kind of absorb that. I think from an industry perspective, I think the biggest challenge for me, because I have 2 main businesses, the development company and the events kind of training of consultancy company. I think the events business is changing a lot. I think there's a lot of events. It's very saturated.
Post-COVID, there's been a bit of a boom, especially over the last 12 months, I'd say.
Yeah, and so that's again been a bit of a challenge in that space. But I mean, if you don't create challenges, you don't grow, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Like I said, it's a very common trait for entrepreneurs to do that. And then actually through those challenges, you start to scale back on the stuff that's working, and you double down on, I think, in the following year, hopefully. So what is the biggest win that you've had in the last 12 months?
Oh, we've had some good wins this year. Yeah, biggest win I would say is probably we've acquired more projects and sites this year than ever before. So our pipeline has grown to 4.5 million this year alone.
Well done.
So we've done well. So that's definitely the win. And then I think also coupled with that is we've also had the opportunity to work with some great investors as well. So a lot of it's funded by private individuals. Yeah. So we've got to meet some great people who've got some deep pockets, but also understand what we're trying to achieve. So I think definitely our game's leveled up in that space as well.
Well, you have a good reputation in the market. I do hear good things about you from people, and so I wish you all the success with everything that you're doing, and hopefully we can do a longer format of this in the near future.
Definitely.
If I was to ask you, of all the people that are headlining today, who is it that you're most looking forward to seeing?
Oh, good question. I've seen a few people. I'm a good friend of Joe Taylor's. He's done some stuff at our events. He's actually done 4 of my events. So,
cool.
And even though I know exactly word for word pretty much now, I'm looking forward to seeing Joe again because he's a great guy. So,
cool.
Yeah, good stuff.
Have a great day and we'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, nice to meet you, buddy.
Cheers.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Cheers, pal.